Hi and welcome. Thank you for joining me today to learn to do your headstand. We're going to be looking at our tripod headstand variation. So you may have seen the other headstand demo up on my channel. This time we're going to be working on a slightly different style of headstand where essentially we have less of the body on the mat, which means we have to work a little bit harder with our strength, but it still is just accessible. If it suits your body, then it's just accessible. It's absolutely fine. I really love this variation of headstand. It suits my body really well. It really is personal preference between which headstand suits you. It might be that you have a different flexibility, a different strength in a different part of your body, and therefore you like the other version of headstand. It is your choice, and it's all about experimentation and just finding what works for you. So maybe you try this headstand variation and you think, nope, I like the other one. That's absolutely fine. It's important to know your options and to know how to be safe in different variations. So I'm going to be teaching you your tripod headstand today. Make sure that you are warmed up and able and fit and healthy to do this practice today. We're not going to be here for that long. We're just looking at a demo, so it's really important you're warmed up already if you are going to join in. If you're not warmed up, then you can watch this and save it for a later date and join in when you're warmed up. So our tripod headstand, essentially, it is because it's called a tripod headstand. It has 3 points of contact with the floor. So we have the top of our head and then we have our two hands, and that creates our base. And we have the top of our head and our two hands in a triangle shape. So we have this little shape, this little triangle, and that is our base. So once we've got our base nice and strong and we've worked out the best distances for us, we can then begin to load that and begin to lift the legs up. Because this tripod headstand doesn't have the support of the hands around the head, it can feel a little bit more daunting. It can feel a little bit more unsafe. So really make sure that you are up to trying headstand in your practice. And also just release any tension. If you're strong enough, if you're fit enough and you're in that place in your practice, you will be okay to go through this. Just make sure you listen to your body. So in our tripod headstand, we need to set up our base. And often this is where it goes wrong. If we don't set up our base right, that's when then we begin to bring load into it. We begin to bring our body weight into it. And it doesn't work out quite how we imagined. And usually we end up in a little bit of a pile on the floor. It happens to everybody, don't worry. Obviously in headstand, we want to be careful about falling out, or at least falling out safely, because you don't want to create any funny angles in your neck. So do be careful. Don't go into this with a little bit of bravery and a little bit of sort of gung-ho attitude. Just be careful. Be conscious that you are turning your body literally upside down. So just listen to your body. Accept that you can probably do this, but you do need to be mindful that this is unnatural for your body in compared to how you normally spend your day. So it may feel a little bit daunting, but if you set it up safely and you take your time, it is perfectly achievable. So our tripod headstand, what we want to do is we want to set up that triangular base. So as you look at your mat now, you can almost picture a triangle. Think your head is here, and then you want your two hands. And so the hands come a little bit wider than shoulder width. So they're probably about the width of your mat. It depends what kind of mat you have, but about the width of your mat. And as with all of our balances, our downward facing dog, everything, spread the fingertips. The more you spread those fingertips, the better your base will be. The better the grip of the hands, the better the switching on of the muscles in your arms. And then what you want to do is, as with our other style of headstand, you really want to make sure that it's the top of the head coming to the mat. So you don't want to take the forehead to the mat, because then you're going to be really awkwardly crunching into the neck as you bring the body up. And you don't want to take the back of the head to the mat, because then you're just going to come into a forward roll. So you really want to make sure you're getting the top of the head. You can almost imagine it's the flat bit, that if you were trying to walk around with a book on your head, it would be that bit that the book balances on. That's the bit you want to take to the mat. So just setting up your base now, and then really make sure where your hands are. Often we bring our hands way out to the side, or we bring them too close together, or we bring the head really close to the hands, and we're more of a sort of a straight line rather than a triangle. So come back up, look at your mat, and figure out where your triangle would be. Obviously, if you're a little bit taller than me, most of you probably are, Or maybe you have a different shape body, a different size body, whatever it is. Everybody's triangle is going to vary slightly. But what you want is you want a nice, wide, stable setup with the hands, and then you want to take your head to the mat. And you should be able to see, if you look, you should be able to see all of your fingertips. You have to look slightly to the side. You can see them in your peripheral vision maybe. And so that's your base. And then you can let the arms go floppy, and you can feel the weight through the head, and then push those hands into the mat for all you are worth. And you can feel that the weight comes out of the head and it comes into the arms. So as you push, your arms will switch on, and also you might have felt the muscles along the sides of the body switch on. That's really important. So our lat muscles, the muscles that come just from the arm down into the ribs, these need to work for us to come into our headstand. We also need the recruitment of the muscles around our torso to switch on. We don't just want one group of muscles, one single sort of group like the biceps or whatever. We don't want just those to work. We want the whole body. We are inverting our entire body. When you think about when you stand and you stand strongly, if you stand relaxed, you'll sway around a bit. If you stand nice and strongly and you recruit your muscles, you can even have a go now, and I know that some of you will be. You'll be standing there going strong and relaxed. So when you stand strongly, you can feel your muscles switch on, the glutes particularly. You'll feel them, the quads. You'll feel it. It's the same in your headstand. If you are relaxed and just flopping out and allowing the joints to do the work, A, it's not particularly great for your joints if you're going to do a headstand a lot, and B, you're not going to be very stable. So you really want to think about recruiting your muscles. You want to get those muscles going, and we're not just hanging out. We're using our strength to get ourselves there. And it can feel challenging, particularly when all you can think about is, I want to balance, I don't want to fall out. To then remember to get your muscles involved as well can be quite tricky. So just take your time, take a few deep breaths, just get yourself in the flow, get yourself set up and psyched up. And then we're going to come in. So we're going to bring our head to the mat, set up your hands, and then lift up the bum. So we're walking the hands in, we're lifting up the bum, and then you've got options. If you're just beginning to work on it, then maybe you bring the knees to the triceps. And here you can begin to just have a little play around with taking the weight through the hands. If that's enough, then you can play coming in and out of this. If you want to take it further, zip the knees in and take them off the triceps. So you can see now my knees are hovering. Then from here, begin to extend the legs. If you want to take it further, then you keep those elbows in as you extend the legs up. Tendency is the elbows want to fall out. Do not let those elbows fall out. You want to keep the elbows wrapped in and the legs heading to the sky. So we're just going to pop out so that we can go through the details. It's a little bit hard to talk while upside down and try to sort of point to things. So what happens is, it might be that you get to the point where you're balancing your knees on the triceps, and then you bring the knees into the midline. You're using your core, you can begin to feel that balance. But it might be that then from there, as you lift the legs up, the elbows flop out. And as the elbows flop out, you lose all the integrity. You get nice floppy jelly arms, which if you've done several headstands, you are going to get floppy arms. But what you want to do is it's a bit like in your chaturanga, the elbows don't want to fall out. You want to keep them in, because if you keep them in, that is going to keep you nice and strong. If the elbows fall out, you're going to lose that integrity around this container that is from your belly button to the top of your collarbones. You want that strength. So we don't want those elbows to flop out. One of the hardest things in your headstand, your tripod headstand, is to remember to wrap the elbows. Because when you're trying to get your legs up, all you can think about is, oh, my legs are heavy. Okay, I've really got to do this. And by the time you get halfway, the elbows have flopped out and you haven't got any further. So we're going to have another go. So remember, our key points is that we want to set up our triangle and get it right for you. Take your time just to learn what's right for you. Make sure your hands aren't really wide and really narrow. Make sure your head isn't definitely in line with the hands. It needs to be further forward. You're creating that triangle shape. Spread the fingertips and take the head to the mat. Remember, it's the top of the head, not the front or the back. Lift the hips and walk the toes in. So we're lifting the hips above
we're lifting the hips above the head. Then we're ready, and we can bring the knees into the upper arms. If that's enough, stay there. If you want to bring it further, draw the knees in. As you draw the knees in, you'll see the hips lift a little bit higher and they stack more over the head. This is where you want to remember those elbows. So my inner arms now are working like mad. Then I extend my legs up and I come into my headstand. So here I'm not only squeezing my inner thighs, I'm squeezing my inner arms as well. To come out, just split the legs. One comes down, the other comes down. The knees come down, you can untuck the toes, you can roll the hips back to the heels, and then you can come into your child's pose. Maybe you sway the head side to side a little bit. Take a breather. Oh, that feels good. And then in your own time, you can begin to roll up. So that is your tripod headstand. And don't worry about how far you got today. Just have a little think about which parts of it you can do and which parts you need to practice. There are always parts to practice. For me, I need to practice having the courage to get my legs a little bit more vertical, because as I shift my legs more vertical, it feels a little bit more unstable. I feel as though my center of gravity is shifting. So that's my practice. It might be that your practice is the elbows. It might be that your practice is lifting the feet and getting one knee to one tricep. We all start at a different place, and it doesn't matter. The end point is, yes, it's a headstand, but we're learning on the way. We're learning about our body and about our yoga practice as we progress. I can tell you now, you will not receive enlightenment by being able to do a headstand. It is a lovely ego boost, and it's a really, really nice confidence boosting thing. It's really nice to know that your physical body can be pushed to these limits. You can do a headstand, but you won't receive or get spiritual enlightenment. And if that's what you're looking for, headstand probably isn't the right place, but there's no harm in doing it. So if you can't do a headstand, don't worry. If you can, fantastic, but there's something else that you can learn instead. So don't worry how far you get with your headstand. Just keep practicing, keep playing with it. Have that fun, that element of enjoyment with it, and you will get there sometime. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon. Good luck with your headstand.